Hello and welcome to this Scan and Cut Saturday. In this video I'll be sharing with you how I created this layered deer head design. Now normally I design my own SVG cutting files, however recently I found this amazing set from SVG Craze, and it contains not only the deer heads but a whole load of different antlers as well. So I thought I'd take a bit of a shortcut and grab this. So I popped it in my basket and went through the checkout. I'll shorten that bit for you. Once my payment had completed, I'm then able to download the files. So I went over to the My Purchases area. By the way, I will leave a link to this SVG cutting file set, as I know from the preview I shared on Facebook that a number of you were interested in getting this particular set. I'll leave it in the details section of the YouTube video and also over on my blog. So now the files have downloaded, I need to extract the contents because it's a zipped file. So right click on the folder, extract all. And there we have the contents of the folder. So it's provided in lots of different formats, but SVG is the one I'm interested in because I'm using it with my brother Scan and Cut. So what I'm going to do is copy the address. So I click in the address bar and copy that location. And then I'm going to switch over to Canvas Workspace. Here I'll log in and start a new project. And then from the menu bar at the top, I click on the icon that says SVG. Click on Choose File from the pop-up box. I'll paste that location, so right click, paste, and click and press enter, and then choose the SVG file and click OK. This will import the designs into Canvas Workspace. Now all of the little elements are individual, so although it brings all of the bits in, I can pick and choose which I want. So I'm going to go and do that now. I've already decided that I want this sort of profile deer head. Now I just need to choose the antlers that are going to go with it. These are left and right antlers, so you do need to select both if you are going to use the same antlers, although for a quirky look you could always use different ones. Okay, I think that one's going to work well. Yep, okay, so I'll select the rest of them and then press backspace or delete. Now it's only deleting it from the mat, it's not deleting it from the memory or the files I've just downloaded, so I don't have to panic. I can always reload them if I change my mind. Now I'm going to group them by pressing G on the keyboard so I can resize them all together, and G again to ungroup, and then I can start tinkering with them just to get the right look and feel. Now I like the way this is going, but whenever I position the right antler, the part of it is going to stick out. So I can double click to enter the line editing mode, and I can then remove some parts by selecting individual nodes, or by clicking and dragging I can delete a whole bunch of them. Don't forget, if I go too fast for you in these particular videos, I do have a full course over on Udemy detailing how to use the machine and also how to use Canvas Workspace. So I'll leave a link to that again in the details section of this video and over on my blog. That way you can learn at your own speed and your own pace. Okay, I'm happy with the positioning. So I'm going to weld them now from the edit menu and process overlap options. So I'm now going to go ahead and start creating my layers, but before I do, I just want to give myself an advantage by changing the fill color to transparent and the outline color to black. Now I'll use the offset tool, change the spacing to a quite small size. I'll send the offset direction inwards, leave the original as it was, and set the corner type to round. Okay, there's my first layer. Now I select that first layer. I'm going to move it off to one side and press G to ungroup it, or you can obviously use your right click button. And I want to get rid of these little bits because they're not going to cut out well or do well in terms of mounting the head. First layer done, easy. Okay, now for the next layer. I'm going to copy and paste this one because I want to make some adjustments. The first adjustment I want to make is to get rid of one of the ears to give this a more three-dimensional look, almost like I'm making my own little decoupage. But, okay, I think I've got rid of the wrong ear. I wanted to get rid of the right-hand one. So Control Z for undo. Select the bits that I want to get rid of. Delete point, and there we go. Yep, okay, I think that looks better. Now, it's not yet a layer, so I do need to do the offset layer once I've done the editing. Remember to change the size back down to match the earlier one. I'm going to delete the original shape this time, so I'm just left with the layer. Ungroup to get rid of any little bits that are not going to work, and delete them. And there we go, there's my third layer. Now I'm thinking at this point I need to separate the head and the shoulder. So I'm going to copy and paste the third layer a couple of times. And with the first copy, I'm going to get rid of everything below the head. So I'm just trying to select as many different points as I can. I'm doing it till it feels right, and don't forget, obviously I do have to still create the actual layer, the offset, so I'm not hacking away too much. And on the second copy, I'm getting rid of everything above the shoulders. Now I don't actually want this to be a straight line, so I'm going to select the top two nodes, click Add Point, and then I can create a more rounded shape. I'll change the corner type to curve for those top three as well. And then I get those little special handles that I can jiggle about. If you don't see them, you might have the hide control points option selected, so you'll just need to turn that off. And also don't forget, zoom in to make sure that it all works. Just need to get rid of an extra point here, I think, just to make it a bit more of a smoother curve. And then I reckon just a small adjustment up here and I'm done. Okay, so I've just positioned those and then selected both. And now I'll do the offset on both of them. Change the size, send it inwards, delete and round corner type. And there we go. I've got my next layer sorted. That works. I've grouped them before I created the next layer. This time I need to remember to leave the original shape in place because I'm working with one of the previous layers. And there we go. I think maybe I want just one more layer. This time I only want it on the shoulder, so although I grouped it, I ungrouped it, so I can now just select the shoulder on its own. And I'm going to maybe have this as a slightly deeper layer. Right, I think I'm just about there. So I'm going to start separating out the layers, and I will group them in their layers as well as I move them. Okay, I think I like what I've got going on here, but what I'd like to do is create a shadow layer for the deer head. So this time I'm going to create a thicker layer, send it outwards, and there we go, a nice shadow layer for it to sit on against the background. Now I'm going to select everything because what I want to do is resize them all together. So I'll group them. And my frame is going to allow me about an 8 centimeter tall head. So I'm going to change over the measurement units and type in the measurement. Oh, not 8 millimeters, 80 millimeters will make 8 centimeters. Silly boy. There we go, that's better. Otherwise it would be a very tiny deer head. Now I'm going to ungroup them and I'm going to move the shadow layer off to one side. That way I can cut it from a different coloured cardstock. And I'll just tidy up this area by getting some alignment going on. I have copied and pasted the original collection because then I can do a reverse alternative, so I can cut them from different coloured cardstocks. Now I'm going to download this. So if you have a machine that doesn't have Wi-Fi enabled, you can choose the download to PC option by right clicking on the icon and save link as or save target as. I've got the Wi-Fi model though, so I'm going to click on Wi-Fi transfer and that's now sent over to the machine, and I will head over there too. Okay, I'm over at the work table with my scan and cut machine, and I'm going to start loading up the cardstock. I'm going to load up 4 6-inch square pieces of cardstock, and I've chosen the colours to match the patterned paper that I'm going to be using. The settings on my machine for this particular cardstock will be a blade depth of 4 and a pressure of 0. I believe this is around a 220 GSM cardstock, so that's kind of a standard setting for that. Normally I'd use a brayer to smooth this down, however in the house move I seem to have probably put it in a box where I can't find it right now, but that may be back in the future. So I'm loading my mat, choosing pattern and Wi-Fi transfer to retrieve that pattern from the cloud, and I'm going to click OK and cut, and then I'm going to send it through to cut. Now I have sped this up, but it took around 2 or 3 minutes to cut. And ta-da! Done. Normally when I'm taking the cardstock off the mat, I generally get rid of the bits that are going to be thrown away or put in the bit box first. And again, because this took me a little bit of time, I have sped it up for you. But as you can see, I've got a colour alternative for each layer. Now the frame that I'm using is a Mosebo frame from IKEA. It's a nice deep box frame. And the cardstock I'm using is from Craft Creations. It's a nice tartan with a grey and creamy yellow print. And then I chose my cardstock to match, or coordinate even. Frame's very easy to disassemble. Just lift up the tabs at the back, turn it over and drop it all out. Don't have to worry about glass in this one as it's a Perspex overlay. Now I've already cut my paper to size, and I will be sticking it to the back of that piece of wood, and I got rid of the little label as well, just so it doesn't create any unsightly bumps in the paper. The glue I'm using is Mod Podge Matte, and I've just put a bit on and spread this over. Now when I was doing this, I think it was, or I think it is, an uncoated wood, as it absorbed quite a lot of that glue already, so I had to reapply a bit more and spread that out. Now that's stuck down, I'm also going to give the paper a coating of the Mod Podge as well, just to seal it. Now the mat, the frame, I'm going to stick on later once the paper has dried. So now I'll start putting together the deer head. So I'm grabbing all the individual layers, and what I'm going to do is apply foam pads to the back of each layer and then stick them together. Because the antlers were quite fine cutting out, there was a tiny bit of snagging, but just smoothing over with your finger will return it into position. Sometimes the tweezers just won't do, so a sticky pickup tool really helped on this one. Now I sped this part up for you, just again because watching somebody stick foam pads to the back of something is probably not the most exciting thing. But once I'm done, here is the final stages of assembling that deer head. And that's what it looked like. Now I did use quite thick foam pads. If I did this project again, I might use thinner foam pads to reduce the space between the layers. What I'm doing now is just taking the protective overlay off the perspex. These frames from IKEA always come with protectors on both sides of the perspex to keep it pristine and scratch free for when you want to frame something at home. So always remember to take those off before you frame something, otherwise you have a very unusual frosted look. And there we go, that just dropped into the frame. Very minimal contact with my fingers as well, so no smudge marks. Putting the box frame mechanism back in the right way. And then I shall skip on a bit in time to when the paper had dried onto the stand for the back of the frame. And I'm going to use just a standard PVA or a quick tack PVA to stick the mat to the paper. You don't necessarily have to stick the mat to the paper. I just found it useful to do this because then I have a way of seeing where to put the deer head. And it just keeps it all from shifting in the frame. Okay, next up, the deer head. So I'm carefully picking that up and applying the PVA to the back of the shadow layer. Not too much, just a fine line squiggled around the back, just to make sure that all of the contact points get stuck down. And then I'll carefully, well, not so carefully with my sausage fingers, position that down onto the mat, onto the frame. Stick it down and then just give it a few minutes to stick firmly in place. There we go, that's how that looks. And then it's a case of reassembling the frame by dropping this in. And closing up the tabs again. This is not a special closing tabs or opening tabs tool, by the way. It's an old knackered embossing tool that I've got just hanging around. You can use a screwdriver. I just find this works well. And there we go. There's our little deer head project. I hope you've enjoyed this one and will give it a go as well. Any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them on the blog or in the comments section on YouTube. If you have enjoyed this project and found it useful, please do remember to give this a thumbs up, or a like as they call it. And of course, if you'd like to see more from me, John Bloodworth, Gentleman Crafter, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you get notifications of any future videos. In the meantime, thanks for watching.